epidural, I want an epidural.
I had a completely natural birth. I mean, I had 0 painkiller.
My whole crotch had been set on fire. Bones are literally being pulled apart.
Hi guys, it's Laurie here from Lemon Yoga. Welcome back to my channel, or if this is your first time visiting, then welcome. Thank you so much for being here. Today I thought I would do something a little bit different. I thought I would talk you guys through my birth story, my natural birth story of how I went into labour at 37 weeks. So if you are currently pregnant, you might find positive birth stories super empowering. You want to fill your head with those positive birth stories. So hopefully this will help you with that positive mind about birth. If you've got any other questions, anything that I don't cover in today's video, just leave me a comment, let me know. Hit that subscribe button to join the Lemon Yoga family, and let's get started. So I am currently pregnant with my second baby. I am 26 weeks pregnant. So I thought it would be a nice time for me to reflect on my first birth because it was a really, really great one, and I'm so happy it worked out that way. I'm a true believer in listening to others' positive birth stories and keeping a positive frame of mind about your own birth, but I'm also realistic in that you need to be open to all sorts of things happening when it comes to birth. And I always say you can never predict the birth you're going to have, so just enjoy it and be open to whatever may happen with your birth. I was super lucky that I actually got probably the exact birth I would want. I mean, this time maybe I can make it even quicker, I don't know, we'll see. My whole labour from start to finish was 5.5 hours. So I was 37 weeks and 2 days, or 1 day. I went into labour in the middle of the night, so I must have been about to hit that 2 days. So I just basically hit that 37-week mark. I'm a pregnancy yoga teacher, so I had been teaching pregnancy yoga throughout my whole pregnancy, and I had actually taught a pregnancy yoga class that evening before I went into labour, which I really think helped to get my body relaxed and ready without me even realising. I obviously didn't teach that class planning to go into labour that night. I wasn't trying to induce my own labour that night, but it just happened to work for me in that it got my body really, really ready. So for a few weeks before that, baby had been in the correct position, so head down, quite low in my pelvis. I'd been getting shooting pains in my thighs, which were really uncomfortable. I'd been getting back pain, and I had had a night of false labour at 35 weeks where I thought, is this labour? But it never progressed. It was really uncomfortable. It wasn't Braxton Hicks, it was false labour. I know this because I could not sleep through these contractions. And the only reason that I knew it wasn't developing into real labour is because it just never got quicker. So the contractions never got closer together, and they never got longer in length. So I called my midwife, obviously, and spoke it through with her, and we both agreed, unless things started to progress, I should just stay at home. And then after, I want to say 4 hours, it stopped. So that was 2 weeks before, and I think that really helped to get my body ready to go into labour at 37 weeks. So I kind of had warning signs that I might go into labour early, but when it's your first, you don't know what to believe. But yeah, the biggest advice I could give now is just listen to your own body. You really do know your own body, even if you don't think you do because you've not given birth before. You do know your body, so listen to all those little signs that your body is trying to give you that labour might be coming soon. So there I am, 37 weeks, taught that pregnancy yoga class. I had Mexican food for dinner, which was quite spicy. Maybe a coincidence, I don't know, but I definitely think it's worth mentioning that I did eat some spicy food for dinner, because that's something that can also be known to get labour going. Again, not that I was trying to get labour going, it just happened. So I went to bed that night. I was struggling to sleep. I was really uncomfortable. I woke up at 3 a.m. and I couldn't go back to sleep. I just felt super uncomfortable. I was lying in bed, and suddenly I heard this pop and a huge gush, and my waters had gone. So I was completely shocked. I woke my husband. I said, oh my God, my waters have just gone. He couldn't believe it because I was only 37 weeks. We both thought I had a couple more weeks to go. So we quickly jumped out of bed, we called the hospital, and if your waters go first, I don't know if you know this, but you do need to ring your midwife unit and you will need to go in and get checked. Even if you're not in active labour, they want you to go in and check to make sure it was your waters that broke, because they need to make sure then that you don't get an infection. You usually have 24 hours after your waters go before they'll want to see baby making its way out. But anyway, none of that mattered to me, because as soon as my water went, my contractions started. At first they weren't too bad, they were pretty manageable. I could still walk around through them. I was packing the last bits of my hospital bag and just getting ready to leave the house. We live in Somerset in the middle of the countryside, and we're about a 50-minute drive to the hospital, which is really scaring me about this birth. I'm actually planning not to give birth at hospital this time because the hospital is really, really far away. And because things happen so quickly for me, I would rather not have to risk going an hour almost in a car whilst I'm in labour again if I don't need to. So obviously this was my first birth. I wanted to give birth in hospital. So we jumped in the car. It took us probably an hour from when my waters went, which was half past 3. So it took roughly an hour for us to get out of the house from when my waters went to when we were actually ready to leave, maybe a little bit less, but it was around an hour. Then we left, and then again it was like another 50 minutes in the car. Now when I was in the car, the contractions started to get quite a lot worse. I started to feel really, really uncomfortable, and I was also sat in the car, which is just not a comfortable place to be when you're in labour. I got to the hospital and I walked myself in, and at that point I was feeling like I needed to bend over double every time a contraction came through. They were very welcoming and they just sent me to the ward to get checked. I got onto the ward. There was one other person there who was clearly in a lot of pain. Their labour must have been further along than mine, and they were making all sorts of noises. But no sooner had I laid on the bed and started to hear the noises that they were making, suddenly I started to make those noises too, and it just felt like my labour had gone from being like really early phases to suddenly feeling really advanced. I was like, whoa, what is this? This is really uncomfortable. All those natural instincts, like the noises that you make, like all of that just sort of switched in, and I was kind of like, what the hell? This is just taken over me now. Midwife came and checked me, and she said, you're ready to go and deliver, which I couldn't believe. I'd literally only just got to the hospital. And I said to her, I want an epidural, because my plan for my first birth had been to get an epidural. Like I said at the beginning, I had a completely natural birth. I mean, I had 0 painkiller. So going from planning to have an epidural to having a completely natural birth was a huge thing for me in the moment. So they said I was too late for an epidural. So I just went, okay, fine. Went off to delivery, and yeah, I don't actually know how long I was pushing for. Not very long, I don't think. I was really, really sick in labour. That was the kind of the thing I remember the most. Like really, really sick. They had to give me, I think, 3 different injections to stop me throwing up, and on the 3rd one I finally didn't feel sick anymore. So that was probably the worst thing. They tried me on gas and air because they said, did I want anything else? And I didn't. I either wanted the epidural or I hadn't thought about anything else. So I said I'd try gas and air. I tried it, I had 1 puff, and it made me feel really dizzy. And I know I'm not the only one that has said this about gas and air. It is a thing. Some people just get really dizzy. Some people get that lovely euphoric feeling. It makes them giddy in a good way, and it makes them feel happy, but it definitely did not do that for me. It made me feel really sick and dizzy, so that was not going to work for me. I could not push a baby out and not have my mind fully focused on pushing that baby out. So I said, I don't want that. I'm just going to do this without anything. And it was fine. I mean, obviously labour is painful. Contractions are painful. I had it most in my lower back, so I was up on all four, well not all fours, I was on my knees and then leaning on my arms on the back of the bed, so the back of the bed was raised for quite a long time. I did try getting up to stand and it didn't work for me this time, but I'm really hopeful in my next birth, in this birth, that I will have more of an active labour and active delivery. I really want to be up on my feet or on all fours for most of my labour, which I wasn't that first time. I just felt like I couldn't move apart from leaning over the back of the bed. And then eventually they kept being able to see the baby's head, the top of the baby's head, and then it would zip back up and then they couldn't see it again. And my midwife kept saying, you need to get the baby down into the pelvis and get the baby round the bend. She kept saying this, round the bend. And once the baby's round the bend, they will no longer zoom back up again. They will properly be down and you're ready to just push the baby out at that point. So that was my focus. I was like, okay, I need to get the baby round the bend. So a few more pushes and I got the baby down into my pelvis, as she said, round the bend. So the baby was now ready to push out. Oh my gosh, okay, at this point, the pain in my pelvis was like my whole crotch had been set on fire. Now, I'm not saying this to scare you because, like I said, I'm planning to have a completely natural birth second time round. And I do think your body creates pain that you can cope with. Okay, in the moment, it was crazy painful, but I never felt like I can't cope with this. But because it was so painful, it did motivate me to push that baby out. I was like, I can't stay with this pain anymore. So I guess the reason it was so painful and it felt like burning is because at that point the whole baby's down in your pelvis, so as you can imagine your bones are literally being pulled apart with the baby there waiting to be pushed out. So that pain actually motivated me to get the baby out in, I think it was 2 pushes. The head came out. The head was then out and like looking around, which my husband found bizarre that like baby's head was out and looking around, but I couldn't push the rest of her out yet because I hadn't had a contraction. So after her head came out, the pain was a little bit better in my pelvis, but not really. I needed to get, her shoulders and her body out to feel that relief. So her head was out and I just sat there sort of waiting for my next contraction, and then it felt like an eternity. It probably wasn't. The next contraction came and I managed to push her out and the midwife pulled her out. And there she was, ta-da, baby born. I should have also said, I forgot to say, that during my earlier contractions, so the ones when I was feeling it a lot on my back, and I was lying on my back at that time, I was actually sleeping through in between the contractions. So I would lie down, it was the middle of the night, I was super tired. I'd lie down, sleep, and then I'd feel a contraction, it would wake me up, I'd say the contraction's coming, and then everyone would like brace down and help me get through it, and then I would just immediately like zonk back out again, and then I'd say it again. That was like the earliest stage of labour before I got to that late stage where she was really far down. Obviously, no one's sleeping through that fire, nobody is sleeping through that burning pain in your crotch. So yeah, once she was down, I was just like, I'm getting her out, which I did super quick. So yeah, my whole labour was 5.5 hours and it was a completely natural birth. Of course, like I just said, I had pain, but that's normal. I think most people have pain during labour. I just think the best things that I did to prepare myself, obviously I did a lot of my own yoga, which helped open my body up. I also used positive birth affirmations so that my mind was in a really good place for birth. I've actually got free positive birth affirmations on my website, so I will pop that here and in the description below. If you want to go over to my website and download those for free, you can, and then just print them off and pop them around your space so your mind is filled with positive birth affirmations too. They really help me. And number one thing was my breathing. That is the number one thing that I think helps your body to really stay in the moment and to really relax and just really allow your body to do what it needs to do. So I do actually have a couple of videos on how to breathe during labour. Again, I'll link them down in the description box below. And I do recommend, if you haven't done any work on your breathing for labour, I recommend you go and check those out so you can also create that inner calm for yourself when it comes to your labour. So yeah, overall I had a really positive birth experience. It was really quick, and she came at 37 weeks, which means I didn't have to do those last few weeks of pregnancy, which was amazing. She was a really healthy size, 7 pounds 7 ounces. So yeah, just a really, really fab birth. And this time I am hoping to give birth either at our local hospital, so more like a birthing centre. A few mums around here I know have given birth there, and they keep telling me it's like a spa, so I'm like, oh, I really want to give birth there. But if things happen really fast, which sometimes if you had a quick labour the first time, they can happen super fast the next time, so like I'm talking an hour from start to finish. If things are happening really, really fast, I'm going to give birth at home. I'm with a really lovely maternity unit this time. It's a really, really small team, and most of the midwives live in my local town, so they're really for me having a home birth if I want to, because they're really close by and they can get to me really quickly. So yeah, that's my plan this time. Hopefully at the birthing centre, aka the spa, but if not, at home. So there you have it. That is my positive birth story at 37 weeks. If there's anything you don't feel like I covered today, just leave me a comment. I'll get back to you. And thank you so much for watching. Hit that like button and hit subscribe to join the Love and Yoga family. I'll see you at the next one. Bye guys.